Judges 16. I read from the Institute for Scripture Research, the ISR, because it takes a direct translation from Hebrew to English, Greek to English, and Aramaic to English. Yah is the Elohim of the heavens and the earth, the first and the last and the only, and he's a very, very jealous El. Very jealous. He doesn't even want the names of idols or mighty ones to come to our lips. The letter J is about 600 years old, and his son Yehoshua died on a stake for the sins of all of humanity more than 2,000 years ago. And Yehoshua in English is Joshua, and another word for judges is rulers. Judges 16. And Shimshon went to Azza and saw a woman there, a whore, and went into her. Okay, so he had sex with a whore, so he's a whore too. The Azathites, saying, Shimshon has come here, so they went round and lay in wait for him all night at the gate of the city, and kept silent all night, saying, in the morning, when it is daylight, then we shall kill him. Now Shimshon lay until midnight, and rose at midnight, and took hold of the doors of the gate of the city, and the two gate posts, and pulled them up with the bar, put them on his shoulders, and took them to the top of the hill that faces Hebron. Excuse me. And it came to be afterward that he loved a woman in the Wadi Sorek, S-O-R-E with a half a check mark Q, those whose name was Delilah, D-E-L-I-L-A-H, Delilah. And the princes of the Philistines came up to her and said to her, entice him and find out where his great strength lies, and see by what we might overpower him. Then we shall bind him to humble him, and let us give you each one of us 1,100 pieces of silver. Now all they have to do is bribe her. They don't even have to say that they're going to murder her and her family. They're just going to bribe her? Will she take it? And Delilah said to Shimshon, please reveal to me where your great strength lies. I got something in my throat. Excuse me. Please reveal to me where your great strength lies, and by what you might be bound to humble you. And Shimshon said to her, if they bind me with 7 fresh cords, yet not yet dried, then I shall be weak and be like any other man. And the princes of the Philistines then brought her 7 fresh cords, not yet dried, and she bound him with them, while those lying in wait stayed with her in the room. And she said to him, the Philistines are upon you, Shimshon. But he broke the cords as a strand of yarn breaks when it touches fire. So the secret of his strength remained unknown. I wonder if he noticed that they were all in the room. I think after like the first or second attempt, I would just never tell her, because the Philistines are always right there waiting. Go ahead and burn her with fire. She's willing to take a bribe of like next to nothing. And Delilah said to Shimshon, look, you have mocked me, and spoken lies to me, trying to get me in trouble and put in prison. Isn't the same? I think it is. Now please reveal to me by what you might be bound. And he said to her, if they bind me tightly with new ropes that have never been used, then I shall be weak and be like any other man. Oh, she can't seriously believe this. And Delilah took new ropes and bound him with them, and said to him, the Philistines are upon you, Shimshon. And those lying in wait were sitting in the inner room, but he broke them off his arm like a thread. And let me guess, they bolted out the front door and he didn't notice. Why is the door open? Why are there so many movement going down? They're like key points that you think you would know. And acknowledge that obviously this woman is trying to mess with you. So Delilah said to Shimshon, Until now you have mocked me and spoken lies to me. Reveal to me how you might be bound. And he said to her, if you weave the 7 locks on my head with the web, then then she fastened it with a pin and said to him, the Philistines are upon you, Shimshon. But he woke from his sleep and pulled out the pin of the loom and the web. And then she said to him, how do you say I love you when your heart is not with me? I don't know, you keep yelling, the Philistines are upon you, as if you're trying to see if it's actually weakening for me. Why would you do that repeatedly unless you were trying to mess me over? Uh, you have mocked me these 3 times and have not made known to me where your great strength lies. And it came to be when she pressed him daily with her words and urged him, so that his being was wearied to death. Holy, nag, nag, nag. Uh, Wearied to death, that he made known to her all his heart, and said to her, no razor has ever come upon my head, for I have been a Nazarite to Elohim from my father's womb, from my mother's womb, not my father's womb. If I were shaven, then my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as any other man. And Delilah saw that he had made known to her all his heart, and she sent and called for the princes of the Philistines, saying, come up once more, for he has made known to me all his heart. So the princes and the Philistines came up to her and brought the silver in their hand, which was probably like a couple months' worth of rent. And she made him sleep on her knees, and called for a man, and shaved off the 7 locks of his head that he didn't notice. Thus he began to humble him, and his strength left him. And she said, the Philistines are upon you, Shimshon. And he woke from his sleep and said, let me go out as before, at other times, and shake myself loose. But he did not know that Yah had turned aside from him. So the Philistines took him and put out his eyes, and brought him down to Azza, and bound him with bronze shackles. When they say they put out his eyes, they literally made him blind. They took out his eyeballs. He was blind permanently. And he became a grinder in the prison, but the hair of his head began to grow again after he had been shaven. And the princes of the Philistines gathered the slaughter of great slaughterings to Dagon, D-A-G with a line on top of it, O-N, their mighty one, and to rejoice. And they said, O mighty one has given Shimshon our enemy into our hands. And the people saw him and praised their mighty one. For they said, our mighty one has given into our hands our enemy, the destroyer of our land, who slew many of us. Alright, listen. Lucifer, the master of lies, the father of lies here, managed to trick some people into being so greedy that they would do anything. They would sell them. They would literally probably sell their baby for $1, and that's basically what this lady did. She sold her soul for $1. Cheap whore, man or woman, cheap whore. And it came to be when their hearts were glad that they said, call for Shimshon and let him entertain us. So they called for Shimshon from the prison, and he entertained them, and they made him stand between the columns. And Shimshon said to the young man who was holding his hand, let me alone, and let me feel the columns which support the house, so that I lean on them. And the house was filled with men and women, and all the princes of the Philistines were there. And about 3,000 men and women were on the roof, who watched Shimshon entertaining. And Shimshon called to Yah, saying, O Master, Yah, remember me, I pray. Strengthen me, I pray, only this time, O Elohim, let me avenge myself on the Philistines with vengeance for my 2 eyes. And Shimshon took hold of the 2 middle columns, which supported the house, and he embraced himself against them, on one on his right and the other on his left. And Shimshon said, let me die with the Philistines. And he bowed himself mightily, and the house fell on the princes and all the people in it. And the dead that he killed at his death were more than he had killed in his life. And his brothers and all his father's household came down and took him and brought him up and buried him between Sora and Etzaola, Eshtaola. So Sora is Tsor apostrophe AH, and Eshtaola is ESHTA apostrophe OL in the burial site of his father Manoah, and he had ruled Israel 20 years. Nice.